All right, I hope people had a good week. It's unfortunate nobody's shown up again, and nobody has responded to me when I asked what better nights there were. Please remember to think about that and let me know. We want to meet Tuesday night or Thursday night. I would like to know if that means that somebody's going to be here for this. There are a couple things I needed to talk about today, and I wanted to go through each of the wire elements that were turned in. Um, Again, when I critique this, I'm critiquing them in relation to the specified outcomes relating to the pertinent assignments. Um, and oh, good, somebody is here. That's excellent. Mary, I'm sorry, my eyes were not focusing. Thank you very much for coming today. Is your mic working so that you can interact a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, good. Sorry, Teams barely works on my computer, so I'm glad it's working now.
All right, good. Um, I'm very glad that you're here. It makes it a lot easier to interact because then we can actually interact and not pretend. Do you remember that one of the things I mentioned last week and the week before was about photograph? Oh, I'm sorry. Since you're a human being, you're alive and you're here, how was your week and your weekend?
It was really good. I got to meet together with some family, and so it was a good weekend.
Excellent. Very
How about
nice.
you?
Uh, it was it was all right. We were able to get a lot of work done, which is always a good thing. And it's one of those things where you know that you've accomplished stuff, but you don't really feel like it.
Yeah.
Except on Saturday, we took the day off and we went snowshoeing, and that was an awful lot of fun. That was
Oh,
great.
cool.
Took a couple hours, went snowshoeing, got some pictures, and that was pretty cool.
Nice.
But
That
thank you
does
for
sound cool.
asking.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last couple weeks I have mentioned about photographing our images, our sculptures, and we're posting that. And one of the main reasons I mentioned was because everybody's going to be doing self and peer critiques before the end of the term. Um, and I mentioned that the photographing needs to be done so that all the attention is focused on the subject of whatever it is you're photographing. Do you remember me talking about the distraction of floors and horizontal lines behind the sculpture and sometimes people will have furniture there because you just take a picture of it at their home?
Yes.
Okay, and I I noticed that several of the photos of things that have been submitted um, people seem not to remember that. And so I did make a 1 minute and a half long thing just showing how to make a very simple infinity screen of your own. And I if people want full points, what they'll need to do is go back and photograph their sculptures with something like this, either at the photo lab in the sculpture lab, room 519 of the Gunther Trades, or if you can't make it, do exactly what I did and do a home setup. So I want to share that with you right now, and I'm going to put a link to it in the attendance thing for this week so everybody can watch it. And for attendance, everybody needs to list 5 things that they saw or learned in the video. And this week, because of this 1.5 minute video, everybody's also going to have to list a 6th thing that said, yes, I watched the video. So I hope that is clear to everybody. But let me do a screen share. And Mary, if you don't mind letting me know, when I do this, sometimes it acts funny and we can't see it. So please tell me if you see the screen.
Yeah.
All right, can you see this, the video?
I can.
Okay, all right, good. I put a piano soundtrack behind it. So hopefully people aren't, um, well, hopefully people can hear that a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and watch this now. Okay, it looks like the sound did not make it. So what I've done is this is just in my studio space. I have just a computer monitor box and I have a white sheet, and that's basically all this is. And it was
Mm.
folded once, so it's a double layer sheet that I've just put over that box, draped it so that it's also covering the floor. And you can kind of see me positioning, getting out the bigger wrinkles. And notice that when I tuck this in, I'm not tucking it all the way back. And I have this a little bit of a curve there because a lot of horizontal lines are distracting. Now this is a sheet. I purposely did not iron it. So, you see the wrinkle of the sheet, but that is a lot less distracting than if I tuck the sheet in all the way and you saw the hard horizontal line. And here I just have ring lights and other lights around the house, lamps and things like that I'm just setting up to try to even out the lighting as much as possible. So you can see it is not a very expensive setup. Here's the object that I'm photographing. Now on this, you can see that there is a little bit of a shadow cast. And usually when I photograph things, I try to photograph it and move the lights around so there's as little of a shadow as possible. That's for me. For some of these sculptures with the wire and stuff like that, it looks really cool if there are sharp shadows. So, keep that in mind as you set up your light sources. And again, I just used cheap ring lights and a couple lanterns. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how hard it is to set an infinity screen up in your own house and do that. And give me just a second here and I'll see if I can find photo that photo that I took. A little bit problematic because I can't find where all my files are. I will find that photo and I will put it into the attendance thing as well so everybody can see what that looks like. But it was not, do you think that that is something that everybody can do when they set up their sculpture to photograph?
Yeah, looks really simple. If there's like we don't have any white sheets, is like just a solid color okay, or does it need to be white?
If you don't have any white sheets, a solid color is going to be great. And the lighter the solid color, the better.
Okay,
If you have like a strong pink or a strong blue, that's not going to work as much as like something that is really faded out.
okay.
I think white is the best. Light gray or light tan is probably a little bit is um, almost as good. And then basically whatever you can do. And white sheets like the one that I bought that at Desert Industries for like $2.
Mm.
And so and that's what I would honestly recommend if you don't currently have a white sheet. Go and get one at Desert Industries. Make sure it's flat and not fitted because you can fold it over and use it better. And just keep that only for photographing when you need to. And that's what I would heartily recommend. So, or if you don't live near Desert Industries, Walmart sells good white sheets for this purpose for about $5 as well. You can buy a single white flat sheet at Walmart for pretty cheap. In fact, I could double check. Let me double check right now how much that would be. And so, you can get by on your own. You don't have to buy something, but I would recommend if you can, next time you're out and about, look up, go to Walmart, go to DI, and grab one if you don't already have one. The sheet sets, that's not what we're looking for. Um, most of the like a twin sheet set of white is going to be about $8. And again, we just want the single sheet. And I'm looking on my Walmart app right now, and it looks like most of them are going to be, just a single sheet is going to be about $5 or $6 at Walmart. But again, it's going to be about $2 at Deseret Industries. And that's what I would recommend. Or if you go to Amazon, you get a single sheet for about, $5 as well. Is right about that. We're not looking for anything expensive, and you saw in the video I didn't even iron it so it was flat. A little bit of wrinkle is fine. What we don't want in the photo is a strong horizontal line, like with a white wall and then the dark floor up against it. And we also don't want furniture in the background. For your house photos, that was great because we were just playing around with photography and getting different effects. But when you're documenting your own artwork, you want your artwork to be front and center. You want that to be the principal focus, whoever's looking at it. You spent serious time on that. It should be celebrated. And that's why we need to do this. So, and what I would like to do, I'm going to ask you, Mary, for questions too. But what I would like to do is talk about um, the work log because I've gotten several that uh, I haven't been able to give points on and just told them, make these changes and resubmit it. And I also wanted to talk about the artist research paper because that's going to be due this Sunday. And then we will look at the wire sculptures that have been turned in. And I think if I remember right, about half of the ones that are, of the people in the class have turned their wire sculpture in. And uh, we'll talk about the things that are good. We'll talk about the things that need to be worked on a little bit for this. And then I would like everybody who's already submitted to take those changes into consideration and resubmit before the weekend so we can get that all graded. So, all right. So after I talk about the work log and the artist research thing, before we talk about the wire, Mary, if it's okay, I'll just ask you if you have any questions about stuff that is going on this week.
I don't think so. I'm excited. It looks like a fun unit.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Now I'm going to do the screen share again. Let me know if you hear this. For whatever reason, the community that I live in, well, there's a lot of grandparents here, and this is about the time when everybody gets on Facebook, and so the internet seems to be um, taxed a wee bit. All right. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay. This is an excellent example of a work log where the person has put the date, they put what activities they were doing, and they put the time. And notice we're not looking for decimal points necessarily. They could have written this as 1.5, or, instead of like this, but we're not talking about exact minutes and seconds. We're talking about approximations. And these dates, January 23, read book and took quiz, hour and a half. Okay. January 24, watch videos and wrote artist review. That's perfect. This is exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. And notice at the bottom, we have total 12 and a half hours. And I thought, I do have examples in every work log assignment. There's an example of what to do. People still get a little bit confused. What you're doing basically is saying the date, the time that you worked on this specific module material, what you're doing in that activity, and then the time. In order to get points, you've got to have a total. Now, how this will look will vary completely on which work log it is. And there's a couple people who have just kept the work logs all in one document and will just submit that entire document with all the different module work logs. That doesn't work. We've got to have one work log for module that requires it. So this one, they've only included the stuff that they did for the defining volumetric form with line work log module, or for that module. They didn't include the work log for the house. They didn't include the work log for the research. So this is a perfect example of what we're looking for. So, look at when you submit your work logs, look at the points I gave you. And if you didn't get a perfect score, look at what I wrote. Because almost all the time, it's going to be there's no total. And then the next most common thing is that it's not for the work directly related to that module. So the research or service learning is going to the research or service learning work logs are only going to contain the time that you spent on the annotated bibliography or writing down your ideas for your project. They're not going to include watching videos and writing the artist review. And this one for work log 2, defining volumetric form with line, this is not going to include the survey of the artists or looking at the other stuff. Does this make sense, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now I'm gonna share this. I have two examples of annotated bibliographies, and I want everybody to remember last week I said turn it in. There's going to be things that we need to change, and just make those edits and resubmit it. Okay, so on this one, I we have two different examples that I want to show you, and there's some good things and bad things about good things and things that need to be fixed on both examples, right? Now for this person, we have the different sources. We have a lot of writing, but but this does need some editing work to get full points for this assignment. First off, what needs to be done is each of these citations need to be in the same format, and each of them need to be in the correct MLA format with the accessed on date thing at the end. So like for this one, it would go right through here. And then remember I said last week, the accessed on date needs to be after the last period of the citation. I I would strongly suggest this person to go back and look at one of those citation machines that we looked at and just make sure that all their citations follow the same format because these are not following that correct MLA format. And the accessed on, uh, they do not need the parentheses. It was just going to be accessed, then the word on February 2nd, 2026, period. So what this needs to be, right, this area that I'm highlighting, after the corrected citation ends with a period, this will be at the end of that, I mean, after that last period of the citation, and then it will end with a period. It doesn't need the parentheses on it. And then for this, when you do the two paragraphs, I said 5 to 8 sentences of writing, but it needs to be in two paragraphs. The first paragraph, like if we go down here, this is separated into paragraphs. The first paragraph needs to be a summary of the material, and the second paragraph needs to be your reflection on the material. And both paragraphs together need to be at least 5 to 8 sentences. What I would heartily recommend is what I've liked right here is notice that they have a hard return after the citation material. And I would also recommend doing a hard return at the end of each of the two paragraphs so that we can clearly see that they're separated. This one doesn't have that, so it looks like it's one big paragraph. And then the last thing is these need to be in alphabetical order according to the first letter of the citation. So this one needs to be ahead of that starts with M needs to be in front of the one that starts with P. So and those are all fixes that yeah they're losing points, but you guys are good enough writers. You know what you're doing. Those are fixes that are going to take like less than half an hour. And I've seen people go through and fix stuff like that in 15 minutes, get everything so that it's alphabetical order and resubmit it. Now, Mary, can you see this second one that I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this one I want to show you a lot of things that this person is doing right as well. And there's still some things that perhaps need to be fixed, but I think that they've already gone through a round of me whining about stuff. And what is important is that paragraphs need to have 3 to 5 sentences in them. The whole thing should be 5 to 8 sentences, which it sounds kind of funny. You can, I guess, excuse me, write a paragraph that's 2 sentences long, but it's not going to really be an effective paragraph. What I do appreciate about this one is notice the hard returns. And we have definite space. We can clearly see the citation end. There's a period at the end of the citation. Now, for whatever reason, in formatting, this period went to the next line. I don't know why that sometimes this your word processor will do that. But what we're looking at is we have the accessed on date after that last period of the citation, and then at the end of the access on date, we have a period. And then this paragraph is a summary of what was found in this material, and this paragraph is a reflection on it. So this follows the example that I gave, and I think is really a good example. Now, if we look down here, we can see the last one starts with a V. Everything is alphabetically organized. And I think that works really well. I don't know, do you guys ever use, and Mary, I'm asking you to represent the entire student body at UVU. Do you guys ever use the text-to-speech AI functions? Or I'm sorry, the speech to text, where you tell it what to write and then it writes it?
Ooh, I have not. I haven't heard of that, but maybe others have.
Okay. And sometimes people also will just go through and type out everything as they think it through. And if you do use the speech to text function, which helps to write really fast, or if you do type it out really quick, make sure that you go through, and by you, I'm talking about everybody in the class, make sure to go through and correct spellings, make sure that the things are in, that the strings of words are in grammatically correct sentences. Use your periods and other punctuation points that you need to. Put capitals in where you need to. And I'm saying this because everybody, even, the example that I showed earlier, they did really well writing and everything. It just a little bit wonky on the formatting. And this one, I think they've done a really good job formatting. But the reason I'm saying this is I have had previous semesters where people have written so that this is like one run-on sentence with no punctuation and uh, no capitalized letters and not even any quote marks. And it makes it very, very difficult to read. So what I would suggest is when you do your annotation, go through, and I would even recommend going to like 2 or 3 different citation machine type websites and plug in your citation and see which one looks cleaner and better to you. And um, and use that as your reference point. I would also recommend setting it up in kind of a rough draft document where you have the citations, then you have what you've written about them, and then go through before you submit anything, add the accessed on dates for everything, right after each citation. And then after you do that, so you have the citation, the accessed on date, and the two paragraphs for each of your five citations, then just look at it, go through and alphabetize it. Make sure that the J comes before the L and not afterwards. And double check as you're doing this that the AI that's helping write the MLA citation doesn't hallucinate and give you stuff that is completely useless. Because I've also had it where it's come up with its own citations because uh, the one it invented looked better than the one that was really there. And I don't know if you guys have had that experience before too. There's even this urban legend about a couple of years ago, a newly hired lawyer asked AI to help it put together a presentation for a judge, and because the AI wanted to please the lawyer, that's what they're designed to do. It invented a bunch of uh, court cases that had never actually occurred in the real world. And of course, the guy lost his job and got kicked out of court, but everybody had a good laugh at his expense. Anyway, do you have, Mary, do you have any questions about this particular project? Are you doing artist research as well?
No, I'm doing the service one.
Okay. I'm so glad you're here because let's talk about that too, um, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But does this make sense? If you were doing this, does this all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And thank you very much for the students sending this stuff in that I'm showing as examples. You guys are all doing an amazing work, and it's interesting to me how quickly and responsible everybody is. When I do say something, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed. As soon as you guys can, you turn around, change it, re-edit it, and resubmit, and it works beautifully. So I really appreciate that. Okay, give me just a second here. I'm going to tee up the next thing. Okay, for the service learning, there's two different assignments. One is what can I do and who can I work with? And these are designed to, the annotated bibliography on average takes about 3 or 4 hours. And I want these two assignments to each take about an hour, hour and a half at the most. So that if you're doing service learning, you spend about the same amount of time as if you're doing the artist research. That's what the ideal is. And for the service learning thing, who can I work with? Have right here is the UVU Center for Social Impact. They're the ones that I suggest talking to if you don't have your own contacts. Mary, do you have your own contacts?
I do. My sister works for a memory like assisted care unit, and I was thinking of trying to volunteer to do some sort of activity there.
All right, that's perfect. That's ideal. That's really good because then you've already have a pretty good idea of who you're going to work with. You just go through and follow the parameters of this when you as you talk about the process of connecting with your sister.
Mhm.
And so in this assignment, you'll reach out to the organization you found or share your documentation of your discussion you already had with the organization in need. Again, for service learning, it needs to take place after the beginning of the semester and before the end of the semester. And it needs to it needs to focus on skill sets that you have as an artist. So, as long as you can do those two things, then this sounds great. And for your submission, if you talk to your sister on the phone or in person, just take notes about your discussion, and one or two sentences addressing each of the four questions in the for this assignment share paragraph. And right here we see for this assignment, share with me your efforts, including summaries of the responses you received. And then the questions are, were the people you contacted helpful in defining their needs and how you could help? Was it clear what they needed, or do you have to do a lot of clarifying? Which potential project is most interesting to you? And if you already did all this, share the examples of the process which you use to define and clarify your project. How will your arts experience benefit the people you are serving? So the four questions are, were they helpful in telling you how you could help? Was it clear what they needed? And which potential project is the most interesting to you? And then the fourth question is, how will your arts experience benefit the people you will be serving? So those are the four questions. And you can, you get by with four sentences, and that's just fine. A short description of the communication you have, in this case with your sister, and just talking to her, and then it's a summary of what you learned and what you hope to do. What is the need, and how will you help? So basically, you're clarifying, you're describing your contact, and then you're summarizing what the experience is. And that does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the next one, you go through a similar process in coming up with what you're going to be doing. And this can be, I'm not looking for this to be super defined because it's going to change. But watch this whole thing. I'm sorry, read this whole thing and then think about it. And then answer these questions to yourself as you write the reflection. So this is going to be a reflection paragraph as well. And in this, what you're going to be doing is giving a rough outline of your project and about the time frame that it might take. And this may be something like, as I'm not looking for an extensive outline or anything like that. What I'm looking for is something along the lines of, in my discussion with so and so, it it's can become pretty obvious that they need visual support in the classroom. So for my project, I will be talking to the teacher, finding out exactly what they need, and on the lines of producing six different posters with my graphics art skill set that help to support the teacher's efforts in teaching different aspects of math formulas. And I expect to get this done. We're going to have our next conversation in the next week or so, and I expect it'll take me about 3 weeks to get all these done and everything. I'm not giving her, I'm not giving the teacher um, endless revisions, just one revision for each poster. And then as soon as that's done, I will prepare the files and give the teacher the files, and they can print it up whatever size they want. So that's basically like just a couple paragraphs. Does that make sense? That's the kind of depth of outline I'm looking for.
Sounds
Does that
good.
sound okay? Does that make sense to you,
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah, sorry, did you hear me? It makes sense.
No. Okay. All right. Good. Excellent. All right. So, do you have any questions about that assignment at all?
Um, I'm sure I will. At the moment, I don't.
Okay. All right. Good. Now, what I want to do is look at the wire sculptures that have been turned in and talk about them a little bit. Um, can you see this image on my screen
I
of
can.
the first wire sculpture? Okay. All right. Good. Excuse me. Last week I was trying to do the screen share thing, and every time I went to a new screen, everything froze and went blank for the people that were watching. So I'm glad
Oh
it's working
no.
this time. Now, for this sculpture, we're just going to look at one image from each of these, and we're going to go through them relatively quickly. for this kind of thing, I really like photos like this. I think they're exciting. But when you're documenting your artwork, this kind of thing is not going to work. We want to be able to we want you to be able to show off your artwork. We want to be able to see it. So we can tell this is it. The sculpture itself is following the parameters as we talked about. It's 3D. It stands by itself. It looks like it's constructed from their scribble. We have different areas where the wire is doing different things. Relatively simple shapes up above with the kind of hanger type thing. And then it looks like simple lines coming down that are the shoulder straps. And then it looks like we have, tightly wrapped wire for the bodice. And then kind of fun loops and different things going on for the skirting. So the sculpture itself, I think this sculpture itself fits all the parameters and does a really good job. However, the way it's photographed is really disconcerting and it makes it difficult to actually see what's going on. So I would recommend that this person either go to the Sculpture Lab photography studio or do that sheet setup that I just showed everybody at the beginning of class and rephotograph this so that we can really hone in on the sculpture itself and see what's going on. You guys put some serious time into these things. I want you to show them off and document them correctly. All right. Does that make sense, Mary?
Mm, yeah.
What do you see about this sculpture? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Um, I like the difference between like the bodice part of the dress and the skirt because like the line thickness is different. So I like how that gives like different places for the eye to look, and the hanger is really cool too.
All right. Excellent. Very good. Yeah, the sculpture itself turned out really nicely. All right, now this one, they did not use the sculpture lab. I don't know if this is a sheet, maybe a curtain, but I think this is a perfect example of a homemade infinity screen. I think that it works really good. My only concern would be these wrinkles right here, and I would say for future ones, I would do my best to get those wrinkles out. But we can see this, and I would even suggest maybe this person could even crop this a little bit bigger, smaller, right where my arrow is on to get some of those wrinkles out of frame. But this, I don't know exactly what this sculpture is of. It almost looks like it's like a podium with a rostrum. Or it could be maybe it's a top mounted washer with the lid open. It could be a couple of things. I think that this is a really good start, but I would like it. I feel that it needs to have a little bit more of something else involved so that we can see a little bit more of what's going on. Um, because all we're seeing basically is the edging, the very edges of the outside form, and we see a little bit on the top. Maybe it might be kind of cool to use a little bit more wire, and if this is a washing machine, maybe build that thing inside of this, with a little bit of simplicity, making it that would make it, I think, a little bit more engaging to the viewer. But I think that this is an excellent start. It's very solidly built, and the photo is really nicely done with their own materials. What do you think about this one, Mary?
Um, I agree. The background is really good. It kind of looks like a tissue box to me.
Oh yeah,
Um, so it looks good.
yeah. I think if it's a tissue box, maybe some more wire right through here to make it look like folds of the tissue or something like that. But I think that this does need a little bit more energy applied to it to make this a little bit more interesting to look at. But I love the stability and I love the lines on it. I think that those parts are really nicely done. Okay, what we have, this is kind of a fun way to photograph it, where we have the sketch and then the photo right of the sculpture itself right there. I think this is one is kind of fun, and maybe this could this could easily be cropped as well, like right above the ears and right there to make it a really clean photo. But I like how they've done that. That's kind of fun. Or at least it looks to me. Does that look to you like this is the wire sculpture?
I think they're both the drawing.
They're both the drawings? Okay.
Maybe, but
Well, if that's the case, I kind of feel dumb.
and I could see how it looks like a sculpture too, but I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can find if there are other photos. Yeah, you're right. Those are both sculptures or sketches. Okay, and I was just going through the other photos that they had so I could see like a clean one. And now I'm going to share my screen. All right. So here we have this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Those were all sketches. And I think that this line right here isn't as bothersome as some lines, but it is a harsh line that doesn't need to be there. And I think that this could benefit from having the sheet behind it, but it wouldn't be as dramatic a difference as if this was like a dark table pushing against a white wall. But those
Mhm.
horizontal lines are things that when you're documenting your own artwork, they really shouldn't be there. I like how this is related to the sketch we just saw. I There's a certain kind of humor I think present in the way that the legs feel. How they're not intended to be anatomically exact, but they are kind of fun and they have energy to them. And I like how the legs have the this wiggly, twisted aspect, and then the body is a little bit more loopy. We have the neck, looks like it almost could have a collar right there, and then the head is floppy as well. And I think it's interesting how they use different uh, ways of putting this together with the wire. So I think the wire sculpture itself is really effective. It stands by itself. It looks good. Um, but I would recommend rephotographing this so that the documentation looks a little bit more solid. So more focus is on your sculpture. What do you think about this wire sculpture, Mary?
I think it's super cute. I agree. I like the wobbliness. It's super cute.
Yeah, we know that it's physically stable because it's standing by itself, but it doesn't look like it should be. I think that that's kind of a fun switch up. All right, so here's another one. This is it looks like it's a dragonfly, and I think that this is a really excellent. I think they did a great job photographing it, and I think it's a beautiful sculpture. What I would recommend for this person is right now it feels a little too flat, and this is a 3D design class. Even though the sculpture itself is three-dimensional, with the wings being flat like this, it feels really flat. And what I would recommend for this person is these two wings, bend them down and bend the tail down so you almost have, or actually, no, I'm sorry, bend the tail tip down and bend these two forward wings down, and then bend these two back wings up. And that would have it so that it would rise off the ground, almost like a tripod, and look like it was moving. And I think that that would make this one a perfect example of what we're going for. Some of the things I really like, I may have mentioned this last week, is I like the two tones of wire, and I like how they did those wings. And I really like how the wings feel very different than the tail and body, and that feels different than the head. And you can kind of tell and feel where the eyeballs are. I think that turned out really well. What do you think?
I liked it a lot too. I like the like swirly body and the wings have the two different wires, so it looks really good.
And I'm wondering something else. I'm wondering too, if they don't want to bend those wings like that and lift it off the surface, because again, this feels really flat. Maybe even getting like a big 8-inch nail, and putting the nail through this so that the
Mm.
form is lifted off the paper with on the nail, so it looks like a an insect specimen. But I don't
Oh,
know.
that would
I
be
wouldn't do
cool.
that. I love this the way it is, but I would recommend bending the wings down, bending these two wings up, and bending the tail down so it kind of sits on a tripod. I think that would really activate it. But notice the background on this. They've done a really good job getting that background as smooth as they did. And I think that looks so much better than if it was on a dark tabletop with a white wall behind it. Did you notice that as well? The background?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a good job on that. This one I think is really interesting. There are some things I definitely love about this. I like how it's not so this weighs too much to have this be completely balanced, and so they put a seashell right there, and the forms of the seashell kind of match the forms of the leaves. But this does feel pretty flat from this image, and this horizontal line is distracting. And I'm wondering if just a little bit of wiggling around, making these leaves, so maybe this leaf right here, the lower leaf, is twisted a bit so it comes towards us. And maybe the body of this is twisted a little bit, or the wings bent just a little bit, so we can really feel that the 3D-ness of it. And maybe there's other photos that show that off better. But I think that would really ramp this up and make this a lot more dynamic. And I would also recommend that they set this up and rephotograph it with like that infinity screen sheet behind it, because I think that would really make this stand out. Because this, with this horizontal line there, it that is rather distracting. So I think that should be fixed photography wise. And I would like to see, maybe all this would take would be rotating this so that the part where the shell is on is closer to us, and we can see the depth, where this leaf bends this way, this leaf bends that way, and what the bird is doing. Just changing the angle that you're photographing it might be all that's needed. But I think this is a really fun thing. I really like how simple loop here, simple leaves, and then a lot of fun stuff going on for the bird. What do you think about this one, Mary?
I think it's cool. I like the detail in the bird. Um, I think it would be cool if they did like, yeah, spread the wings out so it looked like it was flapping.
Just, I think that would be kind of fun for us as viewers. I think that would be entertaining. I think we saw this one last week.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fruit bat. And when I first saw this, I had no idea what the heck it was. But what they've done is, they use that infinity screen behind it. So it has but they've also photographed this close enough to it so we can see the shadow of the wire. And that is a really fun effect. And this kind of thing, incorporating the limb that the bat is hanging from is really an interesting idea. And I love the other stuff that they did. Making the face the way they did, you can kind of feel the bones underneath those wings, and then just the dangling bit almost makes this look. It reminds me of more almost like a chrysalis rather than a bat. So I think this is a really good example of the kind of thing that we're going for. Excuse me. I love the different ways that they use the wire and the different elements. What do you think about this one?
I like it. The background is good because it makes it pop out more and you can see all the details of the wire and how they turn and it makes it easier to tell it's a fruit bat.
All right, excellent. Yeah, and I like that face. That's pretty cool.
This one's mine. I'm so sorry for the background.
Now, what's I really like what's going on wire-wise. I think that this is really looking good. Now, on your assignment it says Grace, and on your
On here
on
says Mary.
Teams it says Mary. Which name do
Yeah,
you go by?
I go by Grace. It's my middle name. I just haven't changed it in Teams.
Okay.
Um, but I'll
Yeah.
answer to either Grace or Mary. It's fine.
I appreciate that because I'll do my best to remember. But some of the things that I really like about this is I like the openness of this area. I like the detail of this area right here. I love how there's different things going on with the wire. And you can see the texture as the wire is wrapped tightly around some areas and is looser about some areas. Those elements are really cool. What is kind of frustrating as a viewer, though, is on a background like this, we can't see what's going on very well.
Hmm.
And that's why we need that infinity screen, because you put enough work into this, you ought to show it off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think this is a really fun sculpture. And the sculpture itself is really good, but I would like to see what this looks like when I can actually see it.
Yeah.
So when I say stuff like that, does it sound harsh or do you understand where I'm coming from?
No, not at all. I totally understand. I would have done it at school. I had just forgotten to take it that day, and then there was travel issues, and so I wasn't able to give it a proper background. But I can definitely make a screen and resubmit it.
Well, and if you guys want to go up to school, you have access to that. The building is open from 7 a.m. until 10 at night.
Oh
And
wow.
the classes usually are over by 5 or 6 in that main room, and there's going to be other people working there. If there is anybody in the room and you want to use the sculpture lab, you just ask whoever looks like they're in charge, hey, is it okay if I use the sculpture lab for a bit? And if it's not, then come back later. But if you're going to be driving up on campus sometime, Saturday is a really good day to go in and do this. And the whole place is almost like a graveyard on Friday evenings before from about 7 until 9, it's a graveyard. So I would recommend if you can go there, that would be my first choice because you guys are doing good enough work. It deserves to be well photographed like that. That's my belief anyway.
Hmm.
I want you to have good documentation. And you guys know next Monday is when they're going to open up the uh, submission portal for the student show. And I'll have more information about that. And I want you guys to submit some of this stuff in there. I mean, the worst thing they can say is, it doesn't fit what we're doing now. And that just means that whoever is putting the show together doesn't see the world the same way you do. So it's not that big of a deal. But if you guys do get in, you can show off all this stuff. I have had, um, let's see, about 4 years ago, I had a student who did a beautiful wire sculpture, completely missed the point of the lesson, so they got like a C on the sculpture turning it in, but it got into the student show. No, because it's when I'm talking about stuff, I'm talking specifically about how does it relate to the parameters of the assignment, not whether or not you've done a good job. Because all of you guys do good jobs. It just, is it fitting the parameters of the assignment? Is it going for what we're looking for? And one thing that I'm noticing too is I want people to be paying attention to the approximations of how much time things should take. And the reason why that's important is if for this module should be taking between 9 and 12 hours for everybody. If you're proud of the fact that you only spent 3 hours on it and you're not getting a very good grade, that should be, that should let you know you're going to get a better grade if you put more time into it. And consistently, the best students have always been the ones that try to do it until they're happy with it, as opposed to the ones that do it as fast as they can to move on to the next thing. Those that kind of work is rarely pleasing and satisfying to the artist that does it. You guys don't do that for your other stuff. You shouldn't be doing it for this stuff. I know you guys lose yourself in your own work that you focus on, and you don't even recognize the passage of time. And I'd like you to bring a little bit of that energy into this and spend the energy or spend the time on these things that they really need. So if you are one of the people that only spent like 2 hours making your sculpture, um, and you're not getting a really good grade on it, go back and rework it. Or if you have spent time on it and you don't get everything that you want, but after a discussion like this, you realize, oh, I can go back and change this and not that big of a deal. Spend a couple more hours on it and get it right. And by right, I mean you're making it to the parameters and expectations of the assignment, not that, God and the angels will love it because it's absolutely beautiful. That's not what we're going for. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, excellent. Now I have gone through and I've graded everything except the wire sculptures, and I'm going to go through and grade those. Oh, and the annotated bibliographies. What is exciting to me is several people did turn in the bibliographies early, which means that I can go back, tell them what to edit, and then they have several days to rework it until it's done, until it's due. And that is great. If you are one of the service learning folks that are doing their project, I Grace, how much of an issue is it with you interacting with your sister and hearing back from her and everything like that, and getting communication back and forth? Has that been much of an issue with you at all?
Not at all. We're actually roommates. So I literally just asked her one day, she asked her boss, and then later that night she let me know that she could gave me her contact info and I just need to reach out to her and set up a time.
Okay, that's great. What I was going to say is that for if you're doing service learning, sometimes the schedules of the people that you're interacting with don't line up with the arbitrary schedules that I give you, the due dates and stuff. And if that's going to be an issue, if you can't get those two things done by Sunday, just let me know. Tell me, hey, I've been able to do this much, but I'm still waiting to hear back from this last person. And then as soon as they do get back with you, turn it in, email me, and let me know, hey, I finally did hear back. Because I don't want when you oh, it is incredibly stressful for me when I have deadlines to meet and I'm not in full control of what's going on. If I'm in full control, I can control meeting the deadline. If I have to wait for other people to get off their butts and get around to emailing me back or responding to me, that always makes me nervous because their schedule is not mine and they don't have the same priorities. So if that is an issue for any of the people who are doing service learning, just let me know how that's coming along. And Grace, if it's working out for you, that's awesome. Excuse me. All right, well that's pretty much everything I needed to cover. We went over, we looked at all the wire sculptures, we talked about the annotated bibliographies, we talked about the service learning, what the project will look like and who you're going to be talking to. Is there anything else that you feel that we need to talk about or clarify? Or do you have any specific questions?
I don't have any questions, no.
Okay, excellent. Well, if that's it, then I'm all done. And I really appreciate, Grace, I really appreciate you coming tonight and being a part of this. And I'm glad all the technology worked pretty well. And as a reminder to everybody, I will include the um, that 1.5 minute video that I made showing how I set up the screen. I will also try to find that photo that I took and include that in there so you can see what that looks like. And all that should be online by Thursday morning. I hope, well, hopefully within a couple hours, but at the latest by Thursday morning. If you guys, and I really do appreciate the people that turn stuff in when I critique stuff and talk about it. I am just talking about it in relationship to the parameters of the assignment. None of this is on whether or not you guys do good work on your own. That has nothing to do with the critiques. The critiques are all having to do with do they meet the parameters of the and expectations of the assignment. So I don't want anybody to, if I say things that sound harsh or whatever, that is never my intention. So I hope everybody understands that. But I look forward to you guys having a wonderful week and weekend, and I look forward to talking to you again on Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.